good, and then he goes and takes the day off. And so, like, the fact that there are days when he has to, like, stay in the office, yeah, that must be really a struggle for him. But I think there are people like that, and they're privileged, and maybe they have earned that privilege, or maybe not. But they believe that they do not have to spend time in the busy work of even just dealing with people, or the busy work of dealing with the structure, how things need to move forward. You know, Dennis just believes he is the guy who's brilliant and the guy who's in charge, and that's it. And if anything sort of like gums up the works, it really throws him. And I think that's what that story was about.
I mean, he's a fairly childish character at heart. And you know, somewhere on your page you mentioned that he likes the idea of selling anything just because it's fun. Yeah, the idea of like how can I make this book? How can I make this go over to everybody? Like, how can I make a housewife want As I Lay Dying by Faulkner? If somebody said do this, figure that out. You're like, all right, let's do it. First of all, we got to smear mustard on it and have a big pornographic cover, and we need to buy Oprah. She's hard to buy. Maybe we can buy some lower level Oprah, like maybe Kathie Lee Gifford. Let's figure this out. We can do it. It can be done. There's nothing that can't be sold to a lot of people, probably. If you just make it look glamorous or look like everybody's doing it. Now, yeah. So I think it's just it. But whether or not these things are the right things to be selling, or should be strewn into the landscape, you know, those things aren't important. And I've been in that world. I've seen that a lot, and it's kind of fun, and it's kind of a thrill. It's like somebody says, "Hey, you know, so and so cigarette company wants to sell wants to get zebras and other four-legged creatures smoking." It's like, all right, let's do it. How can we do it? All right, what can we do? And then you start thinking about ideas, cigarettes and four-legged animals, cigarettes in the zoos. It's like, what's working? And you know, everyone they just get into the idea that like, this is cool. Let's figure it out. It's a challenge, and that's ultimately people are at their best when they are challenged, and I think people work well when they're challenged, and I think people want to be creative, and so all of those things allow people to be creative, and that's why I think Dennis is really living life to this fullest. I mean, he's challenged, he's got something to do, and he's creative and all these things, except he's just never thinking about the morality ever, and that's a problem. Yeah, so that's When did you decide that you needed to write the story, just to have a story starring Dennis in his, you know, a day in the life of Dennis, and just have that? Like, when did the idea? 'Cause, I mean, obviously you said you had dealings with just watching press or advertisements, just spin any product so they can be consumed in any way.
Well, at some point I just realized I didn't know a lot about Dennis, and I hadn't done a story focusing on him, and French publisher, I forget who, asked me for a 6-page story or 7-page story or something, and I said, okay, this is a chance to do a Dennis story, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, that's sort of how I work, is I never really know. It's always about exploring. So if I say, okay, I'm going to do a Dennis story, then it's about me exploring Dennis. And so what I set to doing was doodling and writing some things that came to mind, and then just trying to figure out how that works, how these ideas that are sort of brewing work with what I already know about Dennis. Where would this, if I were to follow him for a day or for a short story, what would it look like? And just start building it up. So that was sort of the reason, was I felt like I hadn't done anything with him particularly. And more specifically, I actually, it's complicated, but I have all these like index cards and things, and some are little
little quips, or some are